Every year, the National Toshaos Conference is held in Georgetown, bringing together over 212 Toshaos and other Indigenous leaders to engage the attention of ministers and heads of government agencies on issues and policies which affect the nation's First Peoples. In this edition of InfoHub In Depth, we take a look at this year's conference organized by the new NTC executive.
Are you ready to embark on a truly epic adventure to an undiscovered corner of South America, where some of the most spectacular natural attractions are unveiled within a beautifully diverse landscape? From the wetlands and savannas to the ancient mountains, magnificent waterways and lush enriching rainforest would provide a vast playground for some of the most exotic and breathtaking creatures on the planet, including many of the world's giant species. This untouched land of mystery and wonder serves up an exclusive experience for travelers. So are you ready for a new, awe-inspiring adventure? Welcome back to nature. Welcome to Guyana.
The annual NTC conference is aimed at consolidating and expanding the national development and transformation processes that cater to the need of Indigenous people. This year, the conference was held under the theme Guyana's First Peoples United in the Promotion of the Green Economy through Preservation of Our Languages, Lands and Rights. The meeting was officially declared open on October 7th by His Excellency President David Granger. In his keynote address, the head of state said development would be meaningless unless people's lives could be improved.
Development would be meaningless unless people's lives could be improved. Human development is at the core of ensuring a good life. It recognizes the importance of improving people's lives, especially in four fields: education, health, livelihood, and social protection. Human development aims at ensuring the good life for all. Indigenous people inhabit all 10 regions of Guyana, mainly in the hinterland. Human development in Guyana therefore must mean hinterland advancement.
President Granger noted that hinterland human development has improved over the past 4 years. Indigenous peoples are enjoying better access to public education, public health, public information, public infrastructure, public security, public telecommunications, and social security. However, he noted that the persistence and gravity of social ills should not be allowed to derail progress on the path to development. To this end, he called on the Toshaos to put their differences aside and work together to reduce some of the social ills affecting their communities.
To work together to reduce the incidence of alcoholism, incest, murder, non-communicable diseases, people trafficking, prostitution, substance abuse, teenage pregnancy, and suicide in certain communities. I noted then that antisocial behavior undermines the cultural fabric of communities and lowers everyone's quality of life.
He also reminded of the Decade of Development, its connection with the UN's sustainable goals, and what it means for all citizens.
The decade will promote measures aimed at closing the development gaps between hinterland and coastland. It will aim at ensuring that Indigenous peoples, among others, would not be left behind. It will seek to promote measures aimed at solving the social problems which handicap Indigenous people and hamper human development. The SDGs are important to human development. Their targets and indicators are useful measures by which to assess progress during the decade of development while we address human development.
In his remarks to the Toshaos and Indigenous leaders gathered, Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, the Honourable Sidney Allicock, reiterated the coalition government's commitment to ensuring Indigenous land and other rights are protected.
The Amerindian land titling project continues, and at this forum there is space that we are going to discuss this further. There has been a lot of challenges, but we have been also very lucky to have 2 extensions for our Amerindian land titling, and I must thank the negotiators of government and Norway and the others who helped. We will now have the extension to 2021 December 31st. So work is ongoing.
According to Minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Valerie Garridalo, the government is fostering an academic and vocational revolution in the hinterland.
This is what this government is all about, creating an academic and vocational revolution in the minds of Indigenous and hinterland peoples throughout this beautiful country. Such is the vision of a caring and thoughtful government, one that is committed to creating a real-time development environment for our people, thereby departing from the past trend of giving handouts and making us independent instead.
Chairman of the National Toshaos Council, Nicholas Fredericks, highlighted the impact of the ICT Hubs that have been established in communities across Guyana.
As you know, the Toshaos are spread across Guyana. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to communicate with each and every one of you. However, we have the opportunity to build our communication systems thanks to the ICT Hubs that is now being built across the country in our communities. Use the opportunity now that presents itself to us so we can maximize the use of the opportunities that is being provided to us. It is a time where we have to focus and don't be distracted. We are here for this week. Let us make sure that we have full interaction, make use of what we are here for. The National Toshaos Council will continue to exist once you, the Toshaos, have proper leadership in our communities. We will continue to grow.
The second day of the conference saw over $34 million in presidential and capital grants handed over to Toshaos for green sustainable community projects. Among the projects that will be executed are the construction of village guest houses and resource centres, bridges, agriculture, tourism and transportation. The community of Bashaidron also received an ATV and Hotokwai village an outboard engine. Toshao of Hotokwai village, Owen Singh, explained that the $1 million presidential grant his village received will be used to clear a new recreational space for youths.
We're having a play field very well, but what happens is that there is 2 schools. One is the bottom school and one is top school. And the bottom school, they renovated it and there are a lot of glass windows down there. And on the top school, there are 48 solar panels. So we cannot play like games because the glass could break. And if we hit any ball to the upper school, it could break also the solar panels. So this is why we are using this presidential grant now to clear a new play field.
Singh also explained that the 40-horsepower boat engine will be used to transport elderly residents to uplift their pension at the Mabaruma Township and assist farmers to take their produce to the market. He commended the administration for its continued support to this community.
I feel happy about it because it is something good for our community. It will benefit us a lot.
The Presidential Grants Program is aimed at creating self-efficiency within the hinterland communities through green, innovative projects. This year, over 200 million will be invested in 215 villages and communities under the program. The Toshaos were also consulted on constitutional reform and the need for them to be involved in the process. During her presentation, Office of the Prime Minister Coordinator of the Department of Governments, Tamara Khan, said with permission from the Indigenous Village Councils, the Office of the Prime Minister will take its constitutional reform education program to the hinterland communities.
The President of Guyana has said that constitutional reform should not be led by experts and politicians. It should be led by you. It should be led by the citizen, because it is the citizen that has to live with the consequences of what go into the document. It is the life of the citizen that will be changed for the better or worse, depending on how involved you are in the reform process. If you exclude yourself, then you're allowing somebody else to take the reins of your life, and that is not fair to you.
Every Toshao attending the conference was presented with a copy of Ghana's constitution. The United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, also made a presentation where it was announced that Ghana will benefit from $1 billion to end all form of violence against women and girls and to ensure that they realize their full potential in a violence-free, gender-responsive and inclusive way.
It's a global initiative launched in September 2017 with a European Union contribution of 500 million euros. That's actually a lot of money. It galvanizes political commitment in achieving SDG 5 on gender equality. It promotes a holistic and multi-stakeholder approach to gender-based violence to catalyze transformation, acceleration, and innovation. And it is we're striving to model a new kind of partnership with donors, government, civil society, communities, and across the UN system.
That was Makiko Tanaka, UN Resident Coordinator and UNDP Resident Representative. Tanaka further explained that the initiative will encompass 6 pillars.
We have law and policies, we have systems and institutions for prevention and response to violence against women and girls. We have social norms, attitudes, and behavior change for prevention. Available, accessible, and quality essential services, and quality and disaggregated data for evidence-based decision-making. And last pillar is women's movements and civil society advocacy.
Minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, the Honourable Valerie Guridalo, acknowledged the program was needed in every community across the country.
Our women need to be protected. Our women need to be respected. And we cannot get that done by ourselves, even if we have groups. We have to have support from our men. We have to have that support. So I'm going to ask all the Toshaos, all the senior councils, to make sure you take this program seriously.
Thursday was a packed day of the conference when ministers made their presentations on developments within the respective sectors and looked at the way forward for the advancement of Indigenous peoples.
Minister of Education Dr. Nicolette Henry was one of the first ministers to address the Toshaos. She reminded that government is on a mission to ensure every child across Ghana is afforded the same educational opportunity.
With teachers training, teachers preparation, and teachers support. That is a very important part of what we do in the Ministry of Education.
The Education Minister made it clear that every step of the way, government will provide support to communities across the country. However, support will not only come in the form of training, materials, technological advancement, and infrastructure development.
As you're aware, we have a lot of social issues in many of the communities. This picture here on this slide depicts what we refer to as a mobile psychosocial unit. This is used by officers from the welfare department with other stakeholders to go around this country to address welfare issues and social issues.
The Ministry of Education launched its Education Schools Welfare Unit back in 2018.
As the government continues to ensure that hinterland communities are not left behind in this age of technology, they're making sure that community leaders are also equipped. To this end, 200 Huawei electronic tablets were distributed to Indigenous leaders.
Minister of Public Telecommunications, the Honourable Catherine Hughes, presented the devices to the Toshaos and urged them to use the devices to better serve their respective communities.
The tablet is being used for you to better serve your community, to connect with the offices in Georgetown and wherever it is, so some of the requests and some of the challenges and the needs can get to central office much faster. And we've already started sharing it out in several communities to young people, to the women's groups, to the health centers, to the healthcare workers, and eventually we want to get, and most importantly, to the teachers, yes. And we've done that at several locations already, and we're coming to do it at everybody's location. Use it in service of your communities, in service of your families. Don't just use it to surf the net and play games. You have a responsibility to help to build this country and your communities.
To date, 66 hinterland communities are connected to the internet, along with 170 ICT hubs. Minister Hughes said that the intention is to ensure every community is connected to the internet.
We've covered some amazing ground. And eventually we will get to every community, every health center, every district office, every school. We will get there.
The NTC chairman thanked the government for its continued support in ensuring that the Indigenous population is exposed to ICT.
I remember last year we were here, and she was outlining the plan. Yes, we're going to go here, we're going to go there. I know we were a bit concerned about the use of the youths and the exposure, so now we have it in our communities. We need to maximize the use, allow our youths to really learn how technology can educate our next generation. And let us continue to advocate for more technological support within our communities, because as we saw in the presentation, there's so much of benefits that can come with technology.
During his presentation, the Minister of Public Infrastructure, David Patterson, announced that $35 million was set aside to install solar lights for selected hinterland airstrips.
These solar lights will be placed along the airstrips at night, and then the Toshaos and the Village Council will keep it in their possession.
The Indigenous leaders within the conference room praised the initiative.
If we have some permanent light in place, it will certainly serve a very good purpose, because we do have cases of emergencies and in the village, and not only in the village, but let us say on the Essequibo coast. And if aircraft or helicopter is needed to come in and we have lights, it will be no problem. So I really feel excited about that news, and I look forward to the implementation.
Representing the Anai district, Toshaos Zacharias Norman wasted no time in stating his unreserved approval of the ministry's move.
Yeah, first of all, I must thank the government to upgrade the airstrip. It is in good condition right now, and now putting the system into place will be a great improvement to the airstrip as well, because Anai is a district which is North Rupununi sub-district, right? Which population of about 8,000 people in the sub-district. So it will be a big improvement for the people of the North Rupununi.
Minister Patterson also outlined plans to upgrade airstrips in several hinterland communities in 2020. These will be done at a cost of $690 million and include airstrips in Korkabaru, Oranduke, Kaichur, Fairview, Karasparu, Parima and Achueb, will receive major rehabilitation works.
Obviously, what we will do, these solar lights will be placed along the airstrips at night, and then the Toshaos and the village council will keep it in their possession.
Agriculture is expected to be boosted in the village of Laluni with the handover of a tractor which was requested by its leaders. Community Development Council Chairman Aaron De Freitas, who was elected to receive the tractor, said that the request for the tractor was made since farming is the main economic venture in the community, which is located in Region 4.
For a number of years, I think decades, the community has been in great need of a tractor. And I want to say thanks to the Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs and the extended government for granting us our wish and request, because this is something that is long for a long time and has been deprived from our community.
Additionally, 8 hinterland communities from regions 1 and 8 will now have improved accessibility as they benefit from outboard engines. Toshaos of Sibai, Raymond James, expressed his gratitude for the engine.
Thank this government for this transportation, because it's very important for my community. And I would want to say, with my congratulations, this is the only means for having this transportation. And I think I thankful, and also the community will be all thankful for this approach. I feel proud again for know that the government really give back on next one, and I will try my best to give care with all my cooperation with the people.
The investment by the government is one of many made to improve the lives of Guyana's first people.
Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Dr. Karen Cummings, briefed participants of the conference on the history of the controversy, reminding them that the border dispute dates back to when Venezuela claimed the Essequibo region of Guyana.
We have entered a new phase in pursuit of our national dream for the betterment of all Guyanese. And so it is therefore important that all Guyanese have an understanding of this issue. And we have to be vigilant with respect to the protection of the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of our country.
She told the audience that the International Court of Justice will carry out the oral hearings in the case concerning border issue by March 23rd to 27, 2020. Mr. Cummings also expressed that the government of Guyana remains optimistic as they anticipate the final ruling.
This hearing will determine whether the court has jurisdiction over the case filed by Guyana on March 29, 2018. And by that case, Guyana seeks to obtain from the court a final and binding judgment that the 1899 arbitral award, which established the location of land boundary between then British Guyana and Venezuela, remains valid and binding. We have entered a new phase in pursuit of our national dream for the betterment of all Guyanese. And so it is therefore important that all Guyanese have an understanding of this issue. And we have to be vigilant with respect to the protection of the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of our country.
The revision of the Amerindian Act and the issue of Amerindian land titling was highlighted by Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, the Honorable Basil Williams, SC.
Addressing the participants in the 4th day of the conference, the Attorney General noted that the Amerindian Act 2006 Chapter 201 takes into account the views of Indigenous communities and groups and ensures good governance.
It regulates the collective rights of the Amerindian people through the granting of communal titles and the establishment of village councils.
The AG explained that the Act allows a village to appoint officers with specific functions given to the council. He highlighted that the revision of the Act provided that the entire village be involved in the decision-making processes.
The entire regime created by the 2006 Act really inures to the benefit of the Indigenous people in the in their communities.
Several Toshaos shared that they would like to see the land titling process completed in a timely manner. Minister Williams reminded them that the process takes time and assumed that protection of their lands is provided for in the Act. In his presentation, Communities Minister, the Honourable Ronald Bulkan, disclosed that the Central Housing and Planning Authority is set to expand its housing program in 3 of the 4 hinterland regions, which are 1, 7 and 9. The minister reported that in these regions, there have been successful interventions.
As far as the CHNPA is concerned, they are represented here this morning, and it is our intention that once this particular project is completed, that 2020 and beyond, that we would be able to expand this program and take it to other communities. Government resources are not unlimited, and there is always a question of priorities.
Some Toshaos and other village leaders attending the conference commended the housing program. David Emmanuel of Warmuri in the Muruka sub-region specifically spoke about homes being constructed for persons.
Honorable Minister, I would like to say thank you for the 13 houses so far that was built in Haimacabra. And presently there are 10 additional houses which is ongoing in the area again, of which I would like to say thank you very much.
This program forms part of the Central Housing and Planning Authority's agenda to ensure the provision of proper housing in the hinterland. 200 million was set aside in 2019 for houses to be constructed in Region 7 and 8. Meanwhile, in Region 9, Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo, more homes are expected to be constructed. This is being facilitated through an Inter-American Development Bank IDB loan granted in July of 2015. The program encompasses a total of 12 communities and their satellites in Regions 1 and 9.
Minister of State, the Honourable Dawn Hastings Williams, focused on the project to remap Guyana that is being carried out by the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission. She pointed to the fact that this will address the many land issues across the country, especially within the hinterland.
We have found out that some boundaries extend to another community, and we find out all the while in different regions, throughout the different regions. For example, Rockstone. Rockstone would want to be titled, but in that area we have some maybe not proven. People are claiming that they have leases falling within that boundary. We have found out that in some indigenous lands, we have some mining concessions that were granted.
According to the state minister, while this was a situation, the administration met upon entering office, a solution had to be found.
Presently, using technology, if you go to another country, all you have to do is Google, and it will direct you to a specific restaurant. It will give you the street directions. It will tell you where to turn, what to do, where you can find a fire hydrant, where can you find the heritage village. But presently, we do not have that, and that is where we want to go.
The Department of Energy also provided an overview of the new and emerging oil and gas sector. The director, Dr. Mark Bino, urged the leaders to ensure a plan is in place to benefit from the resources that will be accrued from the sector.
That's the biggest question that people ask. When the monies begin to flow, how much will come to my region? And the first thing I say, have a plan. Because you will not just come to the Minister of Finance and say, you know what, we need $10 million to do X, Y, and Z. Where is your plan to get you there? That in time to come, you can have a defined pathway, irrespective of political regime, of how you will be able to improve the well-being of your people and your people's people going forward.
The Toshaos called for more educational and awareness programs on oil and gas within the hinterland villages.
More awareness and educational programs need to be available to communities, and not just by in pamphlet form or whatever, but forces going into communities and enlightening communities of, the big question is how we as indigenous people will benefit from it. Is there a policy by the government or anybody? So I would want to recommend that, more information is shared with communities.
It is something that the department recognizes, and the department has been trying its utmost, but we have to build out in terms of targeting our messages and ensuring that those messages also are couched in a manner, depending on which audience we're dealing with, to ensure that persons get a grasp of what the oil and gas industry really means. So you will find absolutely no opposition from me, and we are definitely seeking to move in that direction.
On the final day of the event, the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs also updated village leaders on the many projects and policies being executed to improve the livelihood of indigenous peoples.
The Toshaos were updated on the progress made on the revision of the Amerindian Act and some of the recommendations made thus far and the importance of having such consultations.
The whole idea of consultations is because any law that pertains to any particular group, and in this case, most importantly to the indigenous peoples, it means that you have to have a very strong input into what the law should finally be. And therefore, the consultations were intended to be comprehensive, to be inclusive, to ensure that as many indigenous leaders, ordinary members of the village could have a say in what the law should be, at least making those recommendations for what the law should be.
As it relates to the Amerindian Land Titling Project, Amerindian Land Titling Project ALT Coordinator Enrique Muniz announced that it is working with the GLSE to try to complete the demarcation processes of some communities by the end of the year.
But GLSE is probably one of the most significant players in this whole process. The demarcation, again, GLSC is contracted to do the demarcations, and they've supplied us with the estimates for the demarcation. We have the funds available. We're working out to have what we call contracts with them, or we call it letters of agreement, but it's like a contract for them to commence it. I am not sure what is the capacity of GLSC, if they have the staff to do all 5 demarcations between now and the end of the year, but they've sent the estimates and we have the funds available. And once the villages give consent, we'll be ready.
The event culminated with government presenting 5 certificate of titles for land to Kangaruma and Tasserine villages, Region 7 Yupikari, Region 9 and St. Monica and Mainstay Wayaka Region 2. These communities have been waiting years for their grants of titles to move forward with the development of their villages.
The Toshaos were also hosted and treated to dinner and cocktails by President David Granger, Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, the Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman, and the Ministers of Community Ronald Bulkin and Public Infrastructure David Patterson. And of course, the host ministry, the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. You've been watching InfoHub in depth. On this program, we highlighted the just concluded Nationals Toshaos Conference. Thanks for watching. Join us again next time. Goodbye.